WWF is the largest privately funded conservation organization in the world, with operations in more than 60 countries and a global membership base of about 5 million consumers around the world. And in looking at climate change, we believe it's vitally important to maintain the increase in average temperature around the world to between 2 to 3 degrees Celsius to minimize the most dramatic impacts for biodiversity and for people. And in looking at that, improved efficiency can account for about 30% of the reductions that we need to realize to attain that more moderate increase in temperature. What's interesting on the study that we're here to talk about today, and parallels much of the work that WWF has done, is it really highlights the displacement opportunity to adopt current technologies to displace far less efficient activities. And I think in talking with different members of the tech community, they sometimes don't realize the impact that they have. I can tell you, sitting talking to a mining company about how they're going to reduce emissions while they grow by 20%, they look at you like you've lost your head, and really it's controlling an increase. If you talk to someone in an information service company and talk about telecommuting, that is a single policy. If they allow employees to telecommute 1 day a week, could reduce the emissions from that total enterprise by 20%. And so there is tremendous opportunity for adoption of existing technologies to help lead the way to reduce emissions from more of the developed world, and also to implement a best practice that then could be adopted in a lot of the emerging economies so that they skip kind of less efficient movements, less efficient technologies, and get right to a more efficient method of living or working. I think while there's great optimism and hope in those kinds of things, it's also important not to lose sight of a couple other things that are important that we continue to focus on for development. One is, I think, looking at product design and taking into account carbon scarcity or the intent for energy efficiency. One of my favorite examples is if you look at a microwave. An average microwave for an American uses more power to fuel its clock than it does to heat food. And there is a way to look at design to be much more energy efficient in the underlying products. This is something that we've done a lot of work with, looking at, for example, the computing industry, where we developed an initiative with Intel, Google, and others to improve the efficiency of PCs and servers, which are a big solution in displacing less efficient things like driving to a store and buying and enabling e-commerce, but also that basic equipment of PCs and servers can be far more energy efficient. And we've pulled together a network of buyers and sellers to help accelerate the acceptance of more energy efficient equipment. And that continuous improvement in design of the underlying products is a vitally important piece not to lose sight of. I think as is the responsibility of companies producing technology products or services to be continually decreasing their own footprint and looking at both their supply chain, their production methods, and measuring their carbon emissions and other impacts to look at how they can produce a more efficient product while at the same time displacing less efficient technologies. And I think that the final thing that's really important to think about is transparency and how companies take responsibility for measuring the overall footprint, measuring the improvements that can be realized, and sharing that in an open way with their customers, suppliers, and consumers. And all of those things seem to be a really important part of seeing that this low carbon economy gets adopted, both adoption of existing technology, continued focus on developing better technology, and companies taking responsibility for that entire production process. And that's a lot of the work that WWF has been studying, focusing on